Hello everybody, welcome back to the Penny Lane Podcast. In today's episode, we welcome back Michael from DTR Trading. He shares his process of crossing the seven-figure trader mark, the importance of building core trading habits, and how to get rid of limiting beliefs that stand in your way of success. A big thank you to our sponsor, Rhoback Clothing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review. Enjoy!
Hello, Michael. Welcome back to the Penny Lane Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be back on.
Well, last time we had you on, you were not a millionaire.
That's true. A lot has changed in the last 6 months. It has been a wild journey. I am exhausted.
Well, welcome to the podcast as a millionaire. Let's get into your secret. So you passed $1 million in your trading account. Is that what it is?
Pretty much. I mean, I've had to take some out for taxes and stuff like that. But
sure.
Over the course of the last 14 months, I've scaled my account from about 100K to a little bit over 1.1 million at this point. So did 1 mil in net profit. So, I mean, it's been an incredible journey. Live streamed all of those trades for my members. It's been an absolute blast. Yesterday, looked back through my YouTube and had 280 live streams that it took me to kind of get there. And it has been an electric journey where I have learned so much. And it's kind of really just all started from sort of the core foundations, right, that you need to learn as a trader. Sort of the way I was trading when I was, trying to build up to a 100K account. It's pretty much the same way I've been trading, now that my position sizing is 10, 15x what it used to be. And so those kind of foundational skills have been what have allowed me to get here. It's more just now been a numbers game or a amount of time to get here. And the market slowed down a ton, which slowed me down a lot as well. But as long as you can kind of survive until you can thrive, then, you take your lumps. And then when finally things pick up, you can catch those big wins and really kind of clear your milestones that you're looking for.
So how did you celebrate?
So this weekend, I'm flying to Paris. I'm going to go see a match go see Leo Messi play a match, go have a beef bourguignon at my favorite restaurant, do a quick little run around the city, and then I'm flying back on Monday.
I love that.
Yeah, Paris is my favorite city in the world. It's, booked it a few days ago, and I'm so stoked. I can't wait.
Are you going alone?
So I've actually got a few friends that are going to meet me from my time in London. We're going to get really, really drunk and have a lot of fun. And I'll try to see my sister when I'm there. She lives in the UK, so I'll do a quick little stopover. But it's been... I haven't got much sleep in the last 10 days or so. And it's just been heart racing, mind racing, all these ideas that you thought you could do. All of a sudden they're real. And you're oh, this is kind of what reality is all of a sudden. And this is kind of my way of little celebrating. I try not to... be too flashy or any of that kind of stuff. I live a pretty simple life, but I love to travel. I like to take pictures, and Paris is the perfect city for that.
I'm a photographer. Professional. Yeah. What kind of camera do you have?
So I'm a Leica guy.
Ooh.
So I've got a Leica M10. I've been using the rangefinder for a few years. Back in the day, I was a Canon guy for a while. But then I got kind of used to shooting a little bit of film, and I was pretty addicted to the rangefinder experience. And then now it's all about that Leica glass. Once you get that beautiful lens system, it's impossible to move on to anything else because your eye just gets too snobby. That's
the snobbiest photo thing I've ever heard, but I hear you.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, I think cameras and photography is really similar to trading to a certain extent, where it's really easy to obsess over the gear and the the flash or the lens that you have, but that doesn't take a good picture. Yes, technically, okay, maybe it's really sharp and in focus, but the composition and the little details of actually what make that picture are what make it good, right? So a professional photographer can take a better picture on an iPhone than your 6-year-old, right, can with the $20,000, $30,000 camera setup. And so that's sort of the same thing with trading, right? If you can find those really strong, good, clean setups, then it doesn't really matter what equipment or what laptop or what you're executing it on. You can kind of just take advantage of whatever the market's given you.
Totally. Totally. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've been, I do architecture, that I've been photographing something and there's been people there and they'll say something like, well, all it takes is a good camera, right? Or like something that's like so insulting. Or like,
it's like
oh,
totally
well, if I just
all
had that
skill,
lens,
right?
and you're like, what
Not that
goes
easy.
off in somebody's mind to like...
I feel like we see that everywhere though, right? Where it's like, if you do something really, really well, when you do it at that like top level, you make it look easy because you've removed all those friction points, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're like an onlooker and you haven't experienced that before, you're not super familiar with this, like, oh, like, yeah, of course this person's making it so easy. I could do that. Like, that's the easiest thing in the world. And then you kind of get like that imposter syndrome. You spend $10,000 on a camera and then realize like you're only going to get 2 likes on Instagram because your composition is pretty crap. So it's like, and then that discourages you, right? You stop trading or you stop taking pictures and you stop doing these things because you're not the pro right away. And it's an unfortunate reality of sort of like this chasing culture we have.
Totally. Actually, I can make another parallel to my art. I have a new background.
Mm-hmm.
If for all of you YouTube watchers, I did change this. So that's mine. And I now, like, I shoot on a Canon, cause it is just
so fast, right?
Yes. And I've got the mirrorless one and I've been a Canon girl my whole life. I just I'm Canon girl, but I now am at a place in my art career where like, I am so damn bougie. Like that is built on a custom wood cradle that is hand built by a man, like hand sanded, hand gessoed. It is so expensive. And I'm like, I'm now like, well, like I refused to like paint without it. And like the quality of materials is like the best money can buy, but I sell the pieces. So
of course, yeah,
it's all free to me now. I've just made it at a point in my career where I have the luxury of using the very best.
And the pleasure of using those tools makes you like embrace your creativity even more, right? Like you come excited to want to go paint.
Totally. If you put out paint that is the most expensive oil paint money can buy, it is like butter. It is like,
oh, I bet the colors must pop so much more and just like all the little details, right? And like the smell just hits you the right way. Like all those little things, they all somehow add up subconsciously, right? To trick us into thinking like this is the most expensive or this is the most incredible, and then somehow that translates into our art or into your creating.
And I remember when I first started my painting career, I was talking to my sister and she was like, well, why don't you just paint? And I was like, oh, because canvases are expensive. And like at that time, I'm talking about you go to your local art store and buy the cheapest possible canvas and it's like $80 and you're like, I can't mess this up. Like this is $80 and it, you know, and then now I'm at a point where I'm like, if I mess one of those up, I'm like, I'll just paint over it.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So you've almost like created yourself like a margin of error, right? So like you've almost, I think that's what, we can kind of relate this to trading to a certain extent, right? If you've got $500 in your account and you're trading that $500 every single trade, you have zero margin for error. So if you make a mistake, if you take a losing trade, you blow up because you can't paint over that cheap, crappy canvas. And so you panic and you make another bad decision and it keeps compounding. But now that you have, right, that sort of like comfort or that sort of safety behind it, then, you know, look how much more calm you are, right? If you make a mistake or how something, you know, if you, you know, you don't want to like paint over this certain area or your composition is screwed up. Well, you know that you can fix it because you've dealt with it before. You know that you can bounce back. And we can create that same feeling for ourselves in trading, right, with our position sizing, with sort of those proactive decisions that we make before we enter a decision. So if you want to feel like you're in control, if you want to feel like you can paint over your mistake or like that you can bounce back from a losing trade, then you just need to size your plays to always make sure that you can, right? So instead of going all in on every play, you focus on maybe only risking 2% or 1%, or maybe 10% of your account, right? But you create an opportunity where you can survive those sort of red days, or you can survive those sort of mistakes because you are a good trader. Most people are actually really good traders. They're just really bad at risk management and they choose to ignore it consistently because it's not sexy, it's not fun, And then they constantly just spin themselves in circles over and over again, repeating the same mistakes. And so if you don't create yourself that sort of like buffer or sort of that variance for you to survive on, then you're never going to turn it into a career. And if you didn't find a way to do that with your painting, I'm sure you wouldn't be a professional artist right now. You would have failed out somewhere along the way. And so it's important to think, right, what's the best thing for ourselves, not right now, but what's best for my account tomorrow, or what's best for my account like 6 months from now. And when we can make those decisions, then you can accomplish incredible goals, and like it scales so much faster than you think. So it's crazy, like even for myself, right, how much has changed over the last 14 months. And so just seeing just how much, you know, your life can change in such a short period of time, it's incredible, right? And maybe for some people, your life changes at $5,000, maybe it changes at $50,000, but you're not going to get there until you actually have those correct risk management skills to sustain those moves. And then when you actually do build up that skill set on a small account, when you do get to trading that 100K account or trading that $1 million account like I am, nothing changes, right? You have that muscle memory that you've now relied on for 2 years or 14 months or however long it's been. So the mental challenge of then taking those losses, of taking those hits, isn't there anymore, or it's not as painful because you've leveled up, right, appropriately along the way. You've scaled up as your kind of account has, and you've learned the skills needed to sort of sustain that growth. And that's the most important thing, I think, for traders to embrace, especially right now when markets aren't the easiest, right? We're being choppy. We're not getting consistent follow through. We're in probably one of the nastiest bear markets since like early 2000s. So, we need to sort of put ourselves in situations where we're consistently surviving, right? So that when the market does turn, we can take advantage. When we get that, 2020 lows like we had a couple years ago, we can pounce and we can take advantage of those conditions to then, kind of establish our empires from there.
Bo.
Blaine.
We're hat twins.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. I'm so excited that we're sponsored by Rhoback now. I have been wearing my gear ever since it came in the mail, and I love the colors, but I especially love this little dog. I wore him to the pool last night, and people were giving me the thumbs up.
Yeah, this stuff is awesome. I had heard about it before and always wanted some, but now that I have it, it has exceeded all of my expectations.
Is this your first time receiving a gift in the mail from a company and like opening it and checking out the product?
It might be. It certainly is associated with the podcast.
I have gotten those before, and I was blown away by the quality of this product. It far exceeded what I thought that it would be, and I truly think I'm just gonna like live in it all fall.
Yeah.
It's so comfortable.
Yeah, I've been playing golf a lot this summer, and so I like all my golf gear, but the thing about golf shirts is like the sleeves are always too long and they're always too baggy, and like, I'm relatively in shape guy, so this fits me perfectly. I still have full range of my arms to swing a golf club, and like I could wear this doing anything, not just golf. Like they got hoodies, they got quarter zips, it's like nice and stretchy. I love every single thing I got.
Me too. I love it. It all looks so good together. It's part of a set, and I feel so thrilled to be able to offer our listeners a 20% off code, which is
Penny 20.
All right. So you go to rhoback.com, which is RHOBACK.com. And you just enter Penny 20, you get 20% off, and thank us when your order arrives because it's lovely. You also know how much I love opening experience. Like I'm such a snob about packaging and the way things are presented, and it was a treat.
Yeah, the shit's awesome. I'm not like,
yeah.
Don't even have to like, I would just promote this to anybody regardless of a sponsor or whatever, because this shit slaps.
Also, you've already been like low-key pumping out the Penny 20 to your closest friends because you really believe in it.
No, absolutely. I'm sending this to all my friends because it's shit I think that they're going to want anyways. So, why not take advantage of the discount and rep it everywhere?
Totally. Thank you, Rhoback. We appreciate you. Totally. I had a couple things I wanted to say. The first one was, so I'm going to use this again, the painting behind me. You see the hot pink on there?
Yeah.
So that's like a very big risk. I remember the first time I did it, like hot pink is a shocking color. It's not like, it's such a neutral palette in people's homes. Like there were so many sort of risk with putting kind of a shocking color like that in. And whenever I'm going to do something like that, that I know is a risk and outside what I normally do, I always say to myself, it's okay, because I've never failed since I've been a professional artist. I've never once failed to make a canvas come together in a way that I like. And that knowledge and that power that comes with, like, it is okay to take a risk because I can trust myself to always sort of
be able to bounce back
the risk or whatever, is only something that I am now feeling for the first time in the last probably 2 months in my trading. And I could attribute that 100% to just always taking the exact same position size. And I didn't really understand that before. It's one of those things that got said to me over and over and over and over. And I was like, yeah, risk management. Like, of course, I'm careful. Like, but it wasn't until I and then people would be like, okay, we'll spend X amount per trade. And I would literally be like, well, I'm bad at math, so I'll just like, I had all these excuses for like, why I couldn't do it. And then in working with Ariel, you know, I work with Ariel now every morning and most nights and throughout the day, and I'm being so transparent with him. And that, nothing, I mean, I've changed some things in my trading, but just taking, I now can take a $2,000 position size. That's what huge. I'm allowed to take. And knowing that and sticking to that has been so free. It is like putting the hot pink on the canvas. It's like gives me the freedom to be like, you can take a risk because you're safe.
Because you know that if you fail, that you've got the systems in place to not fail badly, right? To then be in a situation where you just need to go one paint stroke over, right, to cover that mistake or to, you know, to blend it in or whatever, right? Like, you never have to do like a full reset, right? If you take small losses, if you take paper cut hits, it's never like this catastrophic reset, right? Right. I think I talked about this on the last time I was on the pod, but it's pretty much impossible to make like 100 incorrect decisions in a row. And so if you're sizing your positions, right, sizing your play for that reality, you're not going to fail as a trader unless you're literally the least lucky human that has ever existed. And at some point, if you're like 60 trades in and you're not just reversing, like you're not doing a Costanza of all of your emotions, then you were never going to make it anyway, right? But that's sort of the reality, right? It should be impossible to trade. But what makes trading so difficult is that it punishes you for making 2 mistakes in a row. So you can make 1 mistake as a trader, right? You can take a bad play. But if you then choose to average down, right, and make that position bigger, or you choose to ignore your stop loss, or you choose to not take your profit, or choose to, you know, a variety of different trading mistakes that come in, you then give away all of those gains, right? And you compound negative decisions against you. So the power of trading, right, is that the compounding works in both ways, right? When you start making bad decisions, it compounds against you and you start to blow up really quickly because you go bigger and bigger position sizing, you take more and more risks, right? You compromise more and more of your system. And each bad decision that you make makes the next bad decision easier to do, right? But it's the same thing if you go the opposite side. So like you said, right, now you've been working with someone, you've been fully transparent, right? You've got that kind of like almost like motivation to try to not almost be like embarrassed to try to share this information, right? Where it keeps you honest with yourself to the point where now that honesty is translating into every other element of your trading, right? Where you're honest with, okay, I need to keep my stop loss here. I need to size my positions this way. I need to manage my risk in this way. And when you can answer all those questions before you enter the trade, that's when that anxiety totally disappears or fades quite a bit because you're now in control. You understand the terms of the deal that you've negotiated, right? And it's much easier to then accept that when it comes to that point, right? So if you're saying, okay, I'm only going to lose $400 on this trade, I'm only losing $500 on this trade, good, right? That's a fantastic place to be, but you then need to put yourself in a situation where it comes to making that decision, right? Where it's when you're down $500 to hit that stop loss, right? And so, but if you like compound those positive decisions, right, you plan these things out, making that decision then becomes habitual. It becomes like muscle memory where you don't have to think about it. You're just doing it because you know that if I follow this plan, if I follow, stick to my risk management plan, then I know I can keep trading a numbers game. When I keep trading a numbers game, then I know that I can become a successful trader and accomplish all my goals. When I cheat myself of that discipline, I cheat myself of future gains. So it's not that I'm robbing myself of P&L right now. Yeah, that hurts, right? Losing $100, losing $1,000, that stings. But it's those bad habits, right? That when you build those bad habits, that cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars 2 years from now, 3 years from now, right? Because you're not learning the skills or you're not respecting the skills that you need to respect to actually make money in the market. So it's all about, like you say, that risk management, right? Because then it's so much easier to just sustain, right, moves. You can bounce back. You're not coming, home to your kids or home to your family all depressed and distraught. You can smile. You can be sort of a functional human being. And that's all a proactive decision you're making before you enter a trade. So to hear that you're saying that, Penny, I couldn't be any happier for you. That's a fantastic place to be.
It certainly feels a lot better.
And you started swing trading too, right?
Yeah. So right now I am very narrowly focused on, it is not a good market for swing trading. It's just not.
No.
Things are failing. But I'm super committed to this, to trusting this process. And right now I'm about even swing trading. But being even is great, actually. I would take even all the time compared to huge losses. But
there's levels, right? There's levels to being a trader. And going from big losses to not losing big and not winning big, that's a much better place to be. That's a much higher level in your trading career than random wins, random losses.
Totally. So I am going to learn how to swing trade. It's the Mark Minervini method is essentially what Ariel teaches. And it is a grind. It is they teach you in painting, trust the process, follow the process, don't focus on the results. And God, is that true?
Yeah.
It is the most true thing I know. And I am doing that with swing trading. I'm seeing the setups. I'm taking a proper position size. I'm always honoring the stops. I'm learning how to take gains. I'm also learning how to detach myself from unrealized gains. And that seems like third level, fourth level trading, right? Being able to stay calm when I'm up or let a trade come back to me and stop me out at even, but know that I was holding for a bigger winner and know that I didn't lose anything on the trade is I feel like I'm in the Matrix.
Having that lottery ticket is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
That, because then the risk, you have nothing to lose. You can be as aggressive, you can be as however you want, right? I would say that has probably been the secret. If I could say anything has helped me get to making $1 million has been that every time I'm up 10% in a trade, I push my stop loss to above break even. So I'm always taking profit off. I'm always locking in profit. I'm always pushing my stop loss up. And then I can let that thing run for however long I want. I can let it run for a week. I can let it run for a month. It doesn't matter, right? I've got zero risk. So worst case scenario, I make a couple $100. Best case scenario, I've now tripled $30K, right?
Yep.
And that's and then I've got nothing I have to do there, right? There's no emotion when I've got that risk free. There's nothing there. But you only get to that process, right, when you have a systematic, right, approach. Because you're not going to feel like you can have these decisions, right, that that you're going to push your stop loss up or that you're going to manage your position unless that's a predetermined, right, really conscious effort, right?
Yeah.
So what you've been saying, you've been doing with Ariel is you're consistently doing, you're building that muscle memory, right? You're trading the same setup. You're trading the same position sizing. You know exactly where your stop loss is. If you close your eyes, I'm sure you can practically visualize, right, the types of setups and what you want your trade to look like before you enter. And so once you're at that point, right, that's awesome because now you're just need to make a few little tweaks to then try to maximize just a little bit more, right? And so you're very, very close, and that's a fantastic place to be. How long have you been doing this now for? This new
2
sort of
months.
system. Okay, perfect.
But
so this syncs up. Okay, so sorry to rant a little bit. Back in my hedge fund days, we had a 3-month training program. So you are pretty much spot on on pace on what that program was designed. So first month, it's like take your lumps, trust the process, like learn the technical skills. Month 2, like try to break even, try to survive, right? Like try to figure out, like refine a little bit. And then month 3 should be where you kind of double down on the things that you're good at, right? Look at your trading journal, focus on sort of your personal strengths, and then only do those things. And then that should help you get to that sort of profitable like third month.
Totally. Well, I have a bit of a leg up because I've worked with Ariel for a long time. Like I used his system I'm just very, very familiar with his system and the EMAs, and we've just lengthened it to be more of a swing trade. When I was working with him before, it was like intraday swings, but we were doing small caps and that market kind of fell apart. But I'm very familiar with his system. So now I am like sticking to the system, and that's a totally different. And
it creates confidence too, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I closed my account today. So I'm also scalping SPY and IWM with Hugh Henney. I'm using his levels on that. And that is like fish in a barrel, because the trade plan is literally like, if it breaks above this level and confirms, you can trade it to this level.
Yeah.
And those are small scalps, but like it literally gives you the entry, where to stop out and where to take profit. So it's like, that's giving me a lot of confidence too. It's almost like I was trying to bat in the major leagues and now I have a tee. And I'm just like ripping home runs, right? Like it's a easy way to trade. But I have to be very, very focused with myself. Like the way I trade is I swing trade and I will scalp like SPY or IWM, and that is it. And I can't just be like, oh, Netflix is running, let me like hop in there, or like like all this shit that I used to do. It is like nothing matters.
So
except
like
this thing.
The metaphor that I used to get told all the time is if you're getting dragged from like both sides, and you got, one setup pulling you in this direction, you got another setup pulling you in this direction, and you're just constantly you're picking between back and forth, you're just staying in the exact same spot, right? So you're playing a tug of war for yourself where you're not seeing any progress, right? So pick one side, figure out what your setup is, right? Figure out what your actual strength is, and then just double down on your strengths, right? Your strengths and my strengths are going to be different in the market. And so it's important that you don't try to trade like anyone else besides yourself, right?
Right.
Million ways to win as a trader, but there's only one way to lose. And so if you really focus on those risk management principles, then your personality as a trader can really shine. And you can, like you say, compound that confidence, right? Build those good habits, feel really positive about your trading progress. And then that makes it so much easier to take a red day, to feel like you can bounce back, to know that that next green day is right around the corner, because you've now got 60 days, right, of good trading habits that you can rely on. And it only takes 21 days, right, to create a new habit. So all of a sudden, you've rewired all these connections in your brain. You've changed the dopamine hits that you've kind of consistently gone for. And you're trading the way you're supposed to trade. You're trading the way like all institutional traders trade, right? Everyone gets like a sector, 10 names. They get some sort of combination that they trade in. They don't look at anything else besides that. And they focus on those same tickers day in, day out. I always say the scanner is like an invention to rip off the retail trader, because it forces you to FOMO into so many plays. You're constantly chasing. You're constantly looking for that next hit. And then you're using the scanner to like reverse engineer previous wins that you had, when it's not really how it works, right? Like just because you had a $2 million float on some name and short interest doesn't mean it's going to short squeeze every time. Like you're not going to catch Wall Street with their pants down on every single play. And so you have to be a little bit more methodical and not try to just like, this worked one time and I'm going to keep doing that, or keep looking for that same thing. You have to be a little bit more like logical, right? It's got to be a bit more back tested. It's got to be a little bit more of a benchmark for you to actually rely on before you want to say like, hey, I'm all in, let's go. So the fact that you understand Ariel's system really well, you've got a lot of contextual history with it. Again, right, that just compounds that confidence that you're creating for yourself as a trader, and that only means good things for your account going forward.
Totally. I also am so lucky that I have that history of doing that Apple challenge. Like, that's another invaluable thing. Learning when enough is enough, or to like take your profits and walk away, is something that I like had and lost. and then realized how valuable.
Yeah. I mean, especially with options, I mean, the leverage makes moves so exaggerated so quickly, right? I think FinTwit has like kind of like weird tinted glasses for how they view options gains, because everyone's like swinging for 70%, 80%, 100%. Do you know how much like a pension fund would kill for a 10% return in 20 minutes? Like they would die for those kind of returns, right? So, if we can just compound those small wins on a consistent basis, right? 1% a day doubles your account every 70 trading days. And that's not very much, right? That's 10% win, risking 1% of your account per trade. And so, like 1% after stop loss, right? But, that's not very much. Like that's easy to do. And you only need 1-2 trades a day max to be able to achieve those targets. And you'll make a lot more money that way than if you try to swing, for that, home run every time. I mean, it's baseball playoff season right now. And I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I did play quite a lot as a kid. And what you notice, right, is when you swing really, really hard and you get kind of crappy contact, right? You don't hit that ball square in the bat. You're still getting like a ground out, or you're pop flying it or something along those lines, right? But if you just swing like with a controlled swing, you hit that ball where you're supposed to, it just explodes off your bat, right? And that's the same thing with trading. When you have a consistent, repeatable process that you can rely on, that's sort of based on those fundamentals, where you're just slow, consistent swing each time, you're going to hit those home runs, because it's just a numbers game, right? They come from you doing the same process that you do all the time. And those big wins, to a certain extent, are a little bit of luck, right? You got a little bit lucky with your perfect entry, got a little bit lucky that you can get stopped out, right? And then it runs. No one hits 100% every single day. If they did, they would be trillionaires, right? So don't buy the noise that people are pitching you on social media. It's so bullshitted. It's so much Photoshop. There's so many like just scams that are being shown out there that are creating this FOMO for traders that makes them think, oh man, 10% win's not enough. Like I need to get 50%, or I need to get 1,000% because XYZ account posted their huge gain on SPY calls. And so that forces you to then not trade like yourself, right? You're trying to trade like someone else, and you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and putting yourself in a situation where you're no longer making decisions that are best for your trading account, right? You're going for that dopamine hit. You're trading because you want to feel a little bit more. But if you just focus on those 10% moves, right? You focus on those small little wins, that's when you can find that sustained success, when you can really start doubling your account, tripling your account, right? Really upping that position sizing. And then if you trade that way as well, right? Same thing. You never have those crazy aggressive drawdowns, right? You're never losing 20% of your account per day. You're moving and climbing in a sustained and controlled fashion to the point where you actually have that proof of concept. So maybe you got some rich dad, or you got like a rich uncle or something like that. You can show them 6 months of gains on a consistent level. They'll give you cash to invest, right? They'll give you money. There's funding services that will give you money, right? They'll do profit share. So if you really want to scale, right, there's 1,000 different opportunities out there available for you, but you're never going to get there until those core habits are actually where you need them to be.
Totally. Just another sort of reminder that trading is life, and life is trading.
Yeah.
And it's something that I like know and have come to realize, and then sometimes hate being reminded. But like,
oh, I know, because it's such a harsh reminder, because there's no other job, right, where you can be wrong, do everything correct, and still lose money. Like that is the hardest like psychological thing to get over, because it makes it so hard to trust, right? Like 3 red trades in a row, and you got to trust your strategy for that 4th time. Oh my gosh, like I feel like I got an earthquake in my stomach, right? Like I'm so nervous for always when you place that trade. But those are like the way I like to think about that in that context is it's like my brain trying to trick me into doing what it knows it's easy. So if I want to level up, if I want to take my sort of next step in my trade, in my personal life, then I have to be able to like embrace that uncomfortable feeling, right? Now, there's a really fine line there between sort of like uncomfortable, I trust my strategy, and like I'm blindly just going all in on a play. That's not what I mean in this context. It just means that over the course of 1,000 trades, right, over the course of 100 trades, I know that my edge works. And so if I'm able to keep within that numbers game, that's when I'm going to be profitable, right? Every time I sort of venture outside of those parameters, every time I make those risk management mistakes, then I destroy that ability to win that numbers game, and it's impossible for me to profit as a trader. So really, really important that we just focus on those core skills, and then everything else falls into place. Mm-hmm. It's tough because, like, I mean, I definitely notice in my own trading, right? When I don't make my bed, like, I'm a little bit like looser with my decisions. When I start skipping out on exercise, like I start, you know, having a few more like agitated feelings like during the market. So you have to be, like we talked about risk management being like a proactive, not reactive process. Well, that's what you're trying to be proactive about, right? So what do you know that causes you anxiety inside a trade? Okay, most of the time it's by you haven't defined all the sort of elements that you need to know before you enter. You don't know your stop loss, you don't know your position sizing, you've just gone in, you know, random price and you're hoping to take profit off at 60% or something like that. But you don't really have a trading plan. And it's the same thing, right? If you don't have a particular trading plan on how to sort of manage those emotions, or if you have sort of an emotional spike on how you're going to get back to sort of a baseline, then you don't have a risk management plan. So that for me is what risk management is, right? Where it's, okay, yes, everyone knows what a stop loss is. Everyone knows what position sizing is in theory, but they don't think about those other elements that actually impact their trading, right? They don't think about the anxiety. They don't think about the poor nights of sleep that you can get, right? That can make you make bad decisions. They don't think about how it feels like to trade if you've got the pressure of maybe paying off your credit card bill, right? So all those little stresses, if you can then make those clean, if you can kind of answer all those questions, right, then the anxiety reduces from insider trading too. And so I found that the discipline in my personal life, right, making my bed, eating well, exercising consistently, that's led to it's easier to make disciplined decisions in my trading career, right? Where it's easier to then trust my strategy, easier to then trust my system, because I'm able to kind of rely on sort of like a consistent framework instead of trying to rely on like being an outlier inside a specific task.
Yep. How old are you? Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 29.
29.
Yeah.
So I'm 30. I'll be 39 on Friday.
Woo!
And it is, I mean, so much of that is sort of growing up is what, like, with age, you do realize the importance of, like, being responsible, or, like, you know, I talk on here so much about drinking, and I quit drinking for a while, and, like, how many times do you need to have, like, 5 White Claws on a Tuesday to prove to yourself that you're not going to feel very good on a Wednesday? You know, like, and the same thing with trading. Like, how many times do you need to take 4 times your normal position size in puts at the low of day to realize that's a very bad, like,
yeah,
it's not going to work.
Like maybe 1 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And
the problem is once you start getting into those like loops, right? You talk about like that 5 White Claws, or like, I mean, people drink a bottle of wine at night or something like that, right? But once you start doing it once, it's like, oh, I feel bad. So because I feel bad, I'm going to do it again. And it's like becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy where you kind of just like, you keep putting yourself back, right?
Yeah.
This was I was so lucky with sort of how I started out my trading career, but like we had psychologists, right, on staff we had to talk to them like every week. And one of the things that they consistently talked about, right, was how, like, when you say, for me, I'm a stress eater. So, like, when I have a bad day or something like that, I'm ordering, like, 5,000 calories worth of McDonald's or something like that. And just, like, pounding it in. But they would always remind me, right, if you're making those decisions, right, if you're sort of, like, encouraging or, like, rewarding your, like, your stress hormone, or, like, that dopamine that you feel when you're stressed out, if you're rewarding that by drinking through it, or smoking through it, or eating through it, or doing whatever, right, then it's almost like you're rewarding your body or rewarding your brain for feeling that way. And so you're creating this like feedback loop that you don't actually want to get stuck in, because you're telling yourself, I'm doing a bad thing, but I'm getting a reward for that thing. And so thinking in that context has actually been really helpful for me, where I've been able to visualize that a lot more. But that, I remember kind of like leaving that session when I heard that, and I was like, oh fuck, I've got some work to do.
Yeah.
and that's a uncomfortable feeling, but this is not an easy like career choice or like an easy life. But if you do get, the most out of yourself, you're then going to get the most out of the market. So it's not that it goes if I get the most out of the market, I'll be able to fix my personality, I'll fix my mental health, I'll fix all these things. You're only going to get the most out of the market when you've taken care of those sort of base fundamentals first. I think it's really important that people talk about their mental health, and it's not something that maybe we talk about enough on FinTwit, but trading is incredibly taxing for us. Losing money, getting slapped in the face, getting spat on by the market on a daily basis is a terrible, terrible, terrible feeling, right? It's the worst feeling in the world. And so, it'd be fantastic if we could be all as like a group, like a little bit more like loud and open about these struggles, right? We all have these anxieties. We all have these doubts. It's not that, some billionaire trader doesn't have these things. They all do. And so it's just that they've trained themselves, right, to when they feel their triggers or they feel their sort of like kind of breaking point happening, they've got skills developed, right, to sort of manage and bring them back down to sort of where they need to be. So for me, maybe that means if I've got like a lot of anxiety, I like to count down, right, from big numbers. So I'll count down from like 375 in threes or in sevens or something like that and try to get down all the way to zero.
You can
and
do that?
It can take me a long time, but I find if I focus on doing that, then it really helps reduce that anxiety that I'm feeling inside a trade. It makes me focus on sort of my breathing, on my heart rate, on just getting the arithmetic down. And once I'm able to do that, then I find that, it really helps me to kind of stay a bit more present. And so that for me is like a really big trick that I like to use. If I'm thinking about making a decision, maybe I don't have 300 seconds to make that decision, but I'll count down from like 35 in sevens or, sevens is like one of my favorite numbers. So that's why I say it all the time. But, you start to create these little skill sets, right, that you can then rely on when you're having those moments. And when you can start to notice those triggers, write them down, because then you'll, like, if you're able to write them down, if you're able to journal them, if you're able to kind of track your emotions, you'll more reliably pick up that pattern of when those emotions are going to start happening. So inside my trading journal, right, I always try to write down like how I felt entering the trade, how I felt managing that trade, because oftentimes I can then correlate that to sort of other stressors inside my personal life and think, okay, Michael, you need to calm this down. You need to sort this out. You need to maybe my dog's sick or something like that. And that's giving me anxiety and that's making me make rush decisions. And so it allows me to just step back and notice where like the break in my pattern happened so that I can go back and fix it before it escalates out of control.
I love that. Along those lines, I have hired a life coach
who
I meet with once a week. And I did not really want to do it because I was like, I don't have time. And like, also life coach is sort of a triggering term.
It's like one of those
right?
funny millennial, like social media terms.
Yes. That's like, you don't need one of those, but she's like a therapist who helps me with my life. She's a therapist, but she calls herself a life coach. And we have been working on, I didn't know what we were going to work on, right? I just went into it like I'm having trouble managing trading, my podcast, art, I don't know how to allocate my time. I'm just, and we have like ended up focusing a lot on just building confidence and sort of talking myself through different levels of like, this is okay because I can have confidence, or as a woman, like it is okay to be confident in these different areas. And that has been such a game changer for me, focusing on and taking the time. Like it's an hour a week. It's not a
huge commitment. No,
right. It's not a huge commitment, but at the time it feels like it's on.
Well, that's your brain trying to trick you into doing what's easy and comfortable.
Right.
Right. You know that this is what's going to help you level up, and your brain's like, no, don't do this. You don't have the time. It's trying to trick you into staying stuck. Our brains are assholes.
And I can feel myself. It was sort of my shtick for a long time to be like, I don't really know what I'm doing, or like, I don't. Even on this podcast, like, oh, trading is difficult, and I was stuck in a kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is difficult kind of thing. And making that commitment once a week to talk through my issues and focus on leveling up my confidence has been such a game changer in my trading, because it's allowed me to be like, but you can figure this out. Like,
Yeah,
it's
of course.
such a throwaway for me to just be like, oh, I'm not smart enough. Or like I said with the math, like, oh, I'm not good enough at math to figure out my position size. That's a bullshit. Like, that
Totally.
is an excuse.
Yeah, it's a limiting
Right.
belief you're imposing on yourself.
Yeah. And there's no reason, nobody is no one is saying I'm a bad trader. Nobody is saying I don't deserve this. Like, it is all a mental thing in my own mind. And being able to step into, like, I can be good at this. And if I do X, Y, and Z, there's no reason why I don't have as good of a chance or better than anybody else. And having that confidence brought to my trading has been such a game changer, not to mention other areas of my life. And
Honestly, it sounds like you've like really embraced that self-belief, where it's like you've found a way of almost like keeping yourself accountable with this coach, and then that's created for you like this framework where you're like, oh, holy shit, like I can do this. And then now that you've kind of felt that feeling, it's addictive, because
Totally.
you totally want to keep feeding that feeling. Like you totally want to keep like going in, you keep on doubling down, like keep improving, and that's like so much fun. So I love to hear that, because the one thing I see a lot with traders, especially, is if you've dealt with losing for like 6 months or a year or since you started trading, your belief is, oh fuck, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not smart enough, I don't have a Harvard MBA, so who would hire me anyway, all this kind of stuff, right? That's a limiting belief, right? You're imposing something on yourself that isn't true. Trading is not that technically difficult. I mean, like there's enough strategies out there that you can learn pretty easy that are just like basic if-then statements, right? What's difficult about trading is, like you say, that mental discipline, that emotional discipline, that having that self-belief to know that, hey, this is going to work out just fine for me. I'm going to be okay. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing and I will get there. And if you then make your actions match your beliefs, that's when it happens really, really fast, right? So all of a sudden, now you're saying, I believe this, I know I can do it. And then you're journaling your trades, you're following your proper risk management, you're trading with a plan every single time. Well, again, right, you're back to compounding those positive decisions that then reinforce that self-belief. So it encourages further growth, it encourages further progress, and then your P&L has no choice but to catch up, right? It's going to catch up to you. You're not going to catch up to it. So you need to improve as an individual before you can trade the sort of account size that you're wanting, right? And there's a secret, like the secret here is that everyone wants to like level up their life, right? Everyone dreams about driving a fancier car, or they do the math to think about, oh, if I trade like this for 6 months, I'll be able to buy a house in the Bahamas or whatever, right? Well, those goals are awesome, but don't give in to that dopamine hit of like feeling that, oh, just because I looked at a G-Wagon on Auto Trader that it's now my car, right? Focus, find your goals, find things that you want to work on, right? But keep moving those goalposts, kind of create yourself like these, like what you think are impossible targets, and then find yourself constantly breaking through that glass ceiling. And when you do, like the high that you get of accomplishing that is unbelievable. Like it is the most addictive feeling in the world, and it makes it so much easier, like you say, right, to survive that learning time, because, hey, you know that it's going to be just okay.
Totally. You know, every week it is addicting to go back and not only have done the things that I told her that I would do, like that is like, is an approval. I love approval, right? Mm-hmm. So like that is great. But every week I say to myself, for example, I have this new show that I was telling you about before we got on here with Anthony Cridelli, and I feel I kind of can't believe that happened to me. I mean, he is he's
a superstar.
Like, he is.
Yeah.
He is, and I get to talk to him on the phone every single day, and he's telling me things about trading that it's like not even, you can't even put a monetary value on it. And I'm getting to learn from someone who's been in the pit, like doing it.
Yeah, he's an OG, right? You
Yes.
don't get many pit traders anymore. Like
No.
The last of that generation, and that's a psycho breed.
It totally, and I'm here for it.
It's
like
awesome. It's so much fun.
So I get on the call with my coach every week, and I'm like, I am so lucky. I keep saying that phrase, like, I am so lucky. Things just keep kind of working out for me. And every single time she's like, stop. Like,
take credit for it.
Like, you are putting good things into the universe. You're taking active steps. You're taking risks. Like, you are reaping all the goodness that you're putting out. And you're
take responsibility
proactive
for your success.
Yeah.
Right?
And
that's awesome.
It's like, that's been such a paradigm shift for me as well, of like, oh, maybe I deserve.
I am good enough to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is the life for me. Like, I like you said, I do deserve this. Like, people do want this for me. Like, all those reinforcing beliefs, right? They only get reinforced because your actions are supporting your beliefs. Right? Like, that's so, honestly, what a fantastic thing to hear, Penny. Like, I'm so thrilled.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. As I do with every episode, someone said to me about the podcast that I need to shut up more and let the guests talk more. And I've been actively trying to work on that. And it's like, I cannot get out of my own way. I get like a one-on-one with someone I really respect. And I'm like, let's just really get into like.
I mean, I'm not going to speak for everyone listening, but I think it's more fun when it's a back and forth, because I don't like talking just about myself. That's boring. So if you got that one hater, fuck him. He sucks. He can send me a message, like, or she could send me a message. Like, if you got any hate for Penny, direct it my way at DTR Trading. I got it. I'll take it. I can deal with it. I will clap back. Good luck.
Well, now that you have first of all, thank you. Now that you have crossed this $1 million mark, have you dealt with any kind of imposter type syndrome, or do you know that it is a result of the hard work and the systems you've put in place, and you expected it to happen, and you've been foreseeing it long enough that you're able to really grasp it and live it?
Yeah, great question. So I would say I was really, really good at staying like present in the moment, not thinking about it too much until about the last like 100K. Then it kind of like hit me where I was like, oh fuck, I'm about to accomplish my dream. And that actually made me a little bit like arrogant to a certain extent, where I started then cutting a few corners. I started cheating myself a little bit, not exercising as much, where I was almost like relishing that I had accomplished it already. Mm-hmm. So it took me a little bit longer to expect than expected for that last little chunk, that last little 10%. But then I would say like in the 13 months before that, or 12 months before that, however long it took, it was more the day by day. Like I don't really look too far ahead or try to like forecast too much, because it is a little bit dangerous. I do it with my business. I don't do it with my trading, which is I think probably how I get like that out of the way. But what I found was, once I felt really confident in my structure, once I was able to scale to that sort of 100K and sort of get there, then I knew it was just a matter of time, as long as I sort of kept to my rules. And that's kind of how I gamify it. So I know that my win rate's 75%. I target 2-to-1 risk reward or better, and I know that at most I'm losing 1% of my account per trade. So if I'm able to stay within those parameters, then there's no reason why I can't accomplish my goals within 500 days, we'll say, right? 2 years. And it happened a little bit faster, had some really big gains and some really nice trades, right? So it happened a little bit quicker than expected. But once I had the confidence that it was there, then it was like, okay, it's just a matter of time. And then every time I had a slip up, or every time I kind of had like that indecision, then that was what I relied on. It was like, okay, Michael, if you actually want to accomplish this dream, then you have to do what's difficult right now to kind of reap the rewards of that later. And like, I'm trying really hard to sort of still like delay that gratification. Like this weekend's going to be an absolute blast, but that's going to be like a little bit of an outlier, right? Like I don't want to soak in that or like embrace it too much, because it's not really the end of the world. Like this is not the end game, right? Like this is just because you've hit something or you've accomplished something. I don't think this is where I want to stop. Like this isn't where my dreams sort of end. And so I need to make sure that my hunger is still there. And I'm just going to keep doing that by like sort of like depriving myself a little bit. Like not like I'm going to live like a crappy life. Like I live really well, I live really comfortably, but I'm not going to be like, you're never going to see me flashing lifestyle or doing these kind of things, because it's disingenuous, and I actually think it hurts me as a trader as much as it hurts people who are then following me, right, and trying to learn. So it isn't, you don't trade for the money. If you trade for the money, then, or that's your only reason, then you're going to burn out, because you're going to lose more than you can stomach before you get to that sort of breaking point where you can actually start making cash. So for me, it's about the freedom. It's about the sort of lifestyle that I'm able to live with this, the sort of opportunity there. And so as long as I'm able to sort of maintain that and find a lot of joy in that, then I think I'll be able to stay pretty present.
I have two comments on that. And for those of you who are diehard Penny Lane Pod fans, I might be misquoting this because I'm remembering it from memory. But I very much think that singles and doubles had a very similar situation. He had a daily goal that he had never beat that much money in. He'd never made that much money in a day. And he didn't tell me how much it was, but he was like getting very, very close to breaking that daily profit. And he would get like right up to it and couldn't do it. And it just became like a joke almost. Like it took him maybe a month of like, he got really close, and then it kind of retraced, if you will.
Yeah,
and
it's
then,
like it's messing with you, right? Like it knows what you're trying to do, and then it's like, not today.
Yep. And he then finally broke it, and then I think the next day like broke it and added a significant amount to it as soon as
like
he
you
broke
find
that
resistance in your real life
exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so funny how that works.
So
that's
funny.
Totally the same how it felt. It was like, there was like 3 times I was at like 3K away. And then I took a hit and I was like, oh, fuck. And I'm back to square one. Or like, well, not quite, but like, gotta get back there. And then, finally on that 4th attempt, I like blasted through it with like an 85% win that was like way past the target. And I was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Another comment I had was, I really am a big fan of Kobe Bryant, which I think can be a little paralyzing. I guess he had some things early in his career. Not everyone's a Kobe Bryant fan. I like Kobe Bryant.
I love him. He's a killer.
Just amazing. Yeah. And I was watching a documentary about him last night that I would very much recommend. It's called The Redeem Team. And it's the U.S. Olympic team in Beijing. They, the U.S. Olympic men's basketball team.
Yeah, 2008, I think, right?
Yes. So the 4 years before that, they were heavily favored and came in third. And it was like, they went in being like, we're the best people in the world. We're the best at basketball. We invented basketball. We're NBA players. And they got on the field or the court, and there were teams that had been playing together and practicing together for
taking it seriously, whatever, right?
Yep. And they just got their ass handed to them. Like, people were just schooling them because they were a well-oiled team. They were taking it seriously. So to go into Beijing, Coach K, who's the longtime Duke coach, came in to coach the team. And then they brought back a couple of the NBA players, and, things were going well, but they went to a tournament and they got bronze in the tournament. So they were like, we've done everything and we're not quite there. So they brought in Kobe Bryant, and people thought that there was going to be a lot of tension between LeBron James and Kobe Bryant.
Who's going to be the alpha kind of thing.
Yes. And they came in and they thought that they'd been working really hard, and Kobe Bryant was coming in and like diving after balls so they wouldn't go foul. He was giving it like 300% in every practice 2 years before the Olympics. Like, when other people would just let it go or were giving it 80%, he was like, and then they were living at the Wynn in Vegas while they were training. And one night, LeBron took the whole team out to a club. And so they were all out just like hanging out at this pub, drinking,
great
bottle
time.
service, the whole thing, and came back at 4:30 in the morning, and they were in the lobby going for the elevator, and the elevator doors open, and Kobe was there, and they're like, "Yo,
Getting ready for his
what are you
workout
doing?"
or something.
He was going to the gym.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Just incredible. And then LeBron saw that, and they at that time were head and head for who's the best player in the world. And LeBron's like, "Well, now
I'm not
I
if I don't have these habits." Yeah.
Yeah.
If I want to beat them, I gotta outwork them.
Yeah. So then they got in there, and they're both of them alpha 4:30 in the morning. Then the whole team comes, and they start working at 4:30 in the morning. And Kobe Bryant just continually leveled up. Like when you thought he couldn't give more, he gave even more. I know I'm on a tangent, and I don't totally remember why I started the tangent. But I do think that I wanted to just talk about like repetition, perfect repetition, and then just like leveling up in belief in yourself and like putting in those habits.
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things there I think that we can touch on. One, like for myself personally, I'm like a monkey see, monkey do learner. So we talked about limiting beliefs previously. Well, the easiest way to shatter a limiting belief is see someone else who you don't respect to do something, right? That you thought that you couldn't do. And then when you see someone that you don't like or you don't really think they're like that impressive, do it. Like, oh shit, if they can do it, why can't I? So it's almost the same thing, right? With that like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James thing, where it's when LeBron sees Kobe busting his ass off and he's like, this is the standard I got to hit. Okay, well, now I know what I got to do and I can shatter this limiting belief. And then now I can go be the best player in the world because I've seen what it takes to do, right? And I'm sure to a certain extent, Kobe wasn't happy passing on the mantle, but he was happy that he gave it to like a worthy adversary, right? To a certain, like he didn't give it to some guy who just like showed up to the gym on, 82 times a year and put up 40 points a game. Like he put it to a guy, gave it to a guy who outworked him or, was a better athlete or whatever, but he put in the hours actually, like required. So I'm sure there was a lot of respect there after that. And maybe that was what created that respect when they maybe didn't have it beforehand. Mm-hmm. So I would say that would be a big thing. But there's also a lot of value in just seeing like a leader, right, step up and lead. And you can see that a lot in trading. Like if you find the right community, then you can find like that sort of person that can help you shatter those limiting beliefs and then help you level up, right? Like, so maybe it's someone like Ariel, right? Maybe it's someone like Shark, maybe it's someone like yourself for people. And it's all about just finding that correct individual who kind of syncs up, understands you, right? But can push you the right way without being like too in your face about it, right? Because it's not like Kobe was at the club telling these guys, oh, you got to stop, right? I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to focus on me. If I focus on me and I do what I do, then everyone else will fall into place. And he had that extreme belief and he made that happen. And so if you can find that same situation, get yourself on that dream team, then you're going to learn a lot and you're going to improve a lot too, because you become the average of like the people you spend time with. And it's very much the same thing, I think, in all elements of life, sports, trading, school, socially, you become the average. So level up your average, right? Level up your skill set by surrounding yourself by more impressive people. You talked about that with like Anthony, right? How you're like shocked how this happens and like you're like thanking your lucky stars. Well, you're leveling up. You're surrounding yourself with more and more impressive traders, right? More and more successful individuals. So like inevitably you're going to find that success because you're learning from them. You're consistently applying the wisdom, like that they've forgotten more about the markets than most people know, right? And so these little nuggets that they drop, that they share with us, that's what you want to absorb and that's what helps you. And the more time you spend around these people, the more you absorb and the more you improve.
Totally.
But you have to follow their habits, right? Like Anthony or Kobe or myself, right? We show what these good discipline is, right? We show what good trading is. We show what is. And if you don't have to follow it, right? You don't have to follow these same principles. But if you do, that's the blueprint for you to then level up. You can try to find a more difficult, different way, but go to the gym, learn what you need to learn, take your 2 years worth of lumps, but then you're going to win that gold medal when it actually comes down to that opportunity. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like this instant process where you all of a sudden have the skill set required to go from trading $1,000 account to a $1 million account. And it takes time to learn the skill set required to actually get there. And so, it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be, but that's where the work is. And without putting in that work, you're never actually going to have the confidence in your skills to get there in the first place. So it is like a situation where you got to like walk before you can run. And that always starts with sort of those good discipline habits, right? So if you're not journaling your trades, start journaling your trades right away, right? If you're not following your proper risk management, right? Well, you know what the answer is going to be if you keep doing that, right? You're going to keep blowing up. You're going to keep having a bad relationship with your brokerage account. So if you want to be able to withdraw money, you want to be able to pay off your family's loans, you want to be able to do whatever, well, you know what you have to do. So now it's time to step up and accomplish those objectives. They're not that hard. They just take a little bit of actually like conscious thinking. And when you start to think that way, then your trading will instantly transform.
Think about how much better the worst player on that Olympic team got from the start of when they started training for the Olympics, and then they brought Kobe in, and then they won the gold. Think of the arc that player must have made just by being in the same room, being on the same team as Kobe Bryant.
And then all the personal accolades that came with that, right? All of a sudden, you're a better player. Now you're an all-star. Now you're getting a max contract deal, right? Now you're making 5 times more than you were as a rookie, right? And all of a sudden, all those little things compound because you made that good, positive decision in the first place to drop the bottle service, right? To actually focus on what's important and to get into the gym when it's time to focus. And it's not that these guys don't have fun, not that they didn't enjoy themselves outside of it, but their foundation was in that discipline, in that hard work, and they rewarded themselves for that. But they didn't do it the other way around. They didn't think like they made it already because that had already been proven, right, to hold them back. So they had to reset their thinking, and it's the same way as a trader. You have to reset your thinking to be, okay, how can I change everything, or how can I change my life to achieve those goals? We talked about how trading is like an all-encompassing thing. Well, that's what being all in as a trader is, right? Is making that decision that I'm unwilling to give this up as a career, that I'm going to make this happen, and then getting your actions to just match those beliefs, right? Match those words. And if you can make that, then your success will be inevitable. It won't happen tomorrow, won't happen immediately, but you will make it inevitable, and that's really all you can ask for as a trader.
On that, I think we're finished. I mean, inspiring as always. If you guys have not heard Michael's, have you been on once or twice?
This is my second time now.
Okay, if you have not heard his first episode with his background in trading, please do go back in the archives and listen to that. That was a phenomenal episode. It's not that common that I finish an episode of the podcast and thought, like, this is going to go down as like a cult favorite, and I truly believe that. I think this was... Thank you for bringing your honesty and your wisdom and your knowledge and your insight and sharing it with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you matching my energy. It's not always easy being like vulnerable and talking about things that are like taboo for some people, but I'm not embarrassed by my mental health. We all have our ups and downs. So just for anyone who's listening, please get the help you need. My DMs are always open. I'm sure Blaine's are as well. If you ever need any help, you ever need someone to talk to, you're ever struggling with your trading, you are not alone. So please don't ever feel like you are. There are a lot of options and there's a lot of help out there for you. So please don't ever do anything silly.
Totally. Agreed. Seconded. All right. Oh, would you look at that? Anthony's calling me. I'm going to end this.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
By accessing this podcast, you acknowledge that the Penny Lane podcast makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional or financial advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, the Penny Lane podcast does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. The third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policies of the Penny Lane podcast. The Penny Lane podcast assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with applicable laws of such materials and/or links referenced herein.